the other day, I was listening to one of our old friends' podcast, and I think the title was something about "Thank God for our husband's sex drive" or something like that.
Okay, I'm skeptical, but
Yeah,
listen.
that induced the Twitter poll, and of all the podcasts out there, not named the Uncharted Catholic Man, they're pretty good. And but welcome back to the show, everyone. Craig and Jonah here. Jonah says I look tired today.
Well, you can tell them why.
Yeah. The the fun of trying to have an affectionate and intimate life with children around. I was saying this the other day,
You had a bit of a rain delay and had to stay up late.
single greatest barrier to intimacy in marriage is the kids.
You know that there's a ton of actually that's I would bet you 95% of it. Because I think, in my own experience when we were first married, frequent intimacy, then you have kids, and you're wandering through the desert.
We had frequent intimacy about 3 weeks, and then we got pregnant. And then she was suffering from morning sickness.
Yeah.
We've never really recovered.
Well, so we hadn't recovered until we started doing this podcast and started talking about it. And then we just talked about it, and it just became just like old times again. And we even talked about how it's just like old times again for us.
Well, that's great.
I
don't know. I mean, I guess old times for us is abstinence. Poor kids. So yeah, it's just we're in a far better situation than we were even a year ago. But even with that, it's just tough. So our youngest is a year and a half and is at this phase. So yesterday my wife had to go into town, and it all comes down to when the kid sleeps during the day. At least our kids. And you gotta hit that nap, because if they don't get a nap, then they fall asleep about 6:00 p.m. and then our kids wake up and then they're howling. But if you get a nap, it can't be too late in the afternoon. It can't be too long. There's just the
you gotta
sweet
wake them
spot
up,
in
really.
there.
It's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
We have the same thing.
Yeah. So and it's just one of these things where I know. So I came home last night after work and stuff, and come in and my wife is sitting on the couch holding, and the baby is looking pretty tired. It's like, oh, this is not great. And things were going good. The baby was still up, but struggling, and then finally crashed on the couch. Too early.
Oh,
Too early. And so
did you try waking her up then?
No, at that point it was like, we're just gonna have to try and keep her
down.
Sometimes she can.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's you hold them, and then you go up and transfer into bed, and if you go too quickly, they wake up. If you wait too long, they wake up. Like, it's truly like carrying a time bomb around.
It's true.
Just waiting to go off at any time. This is the stuff they don't tell you about.
No, all that is very true. So if you don't have kids, listen to that, because that's very true. Like, there is a very small window where you can actually move the baby without them waking up.
So baby was sleeping. I got all the other kids to bed. Came back down, and my wife is sitting there, and the baby's sitting up there looking at me. Is like, yep, here we go again.
Yeah.
We had tried the night before. At least I had tried. I don't know if my wife knew that we were trying. Same thing. Baby wouldn't go to bed until 11:30 or 12, and
just 2 nights of rain delays.
Yeah. So last night, baby got up. You know what's so angry? So maddening is the kid'll sit there and she's tired, she's yawning, she's laying around. It's like, just go to sleep. Just go back to sleep. So I got up and I went down.
This is where you grow in patience.
It's a constant state of anxiety.
But
Like,
when you've been doing this for 20 years.
I think I have all the patience I'm going to get. It's not enough, apparently.
Oh, that's funny.
So I don't know. So finally the child fell asleep, and I was kind of hanging out. In part, I didn't want to sneak past and go up the stairs because we have gates everywhere, and I didn't want to wake the baby up if she was sleeping or whatever. Thought about waking my wife up, but she was sleeping on the couch, and I was just like, I'm gonna leave you. Like, she came
Yep.
up around 2:30, and so I went to bed. And I don't know. It's just like,
Just hanging in there, huh?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it could be worse, and I'm sure there are other people have it worse. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Believe me, the guy that hasn't had sex with his wife in 10 years is like, yeah, I feel real bad for you, buddy.
I know, but here's the point I want to get at. Like, especially, I would say, especially a year ago, or for much of our marriage, when you're trying to do everything the right way, and I still do try to do everything the right way. Um, like that whole thing of anxiety is where you start to feel like your kids are your enemies a little bit.
Oh, well,
No, I mean,
I know what you're saying.
I'm
It's
not.
a funny way to say it.
I mean, it's just like it's hard not to be irritated with them when they won't
Yeah.
settle down
Oh,
on
yeah.
mom and dad's night, right?
Mhm.
Or just, I don't know.
There's a lot of moving parts that have to all work
Yeah,
in sequence for
yeah.
things to happen. Yeah.
There's never a state of, I'm going to use a big word here, homeostasis.
All right.
You know what that?
Yeah, I do. Yes. But you can educate me.
Well, it's just kind of that. Well, you maybe you correct me, but
Okay.
it's kind of that, functionally it's that sense of normalcy. Everything is kind of operating well. There's not a bunch of stress or whatever.
Not a lot of turbulence.
Right.
Everything's staying the
It's
same.
just kind of I I think that for a Catholic, it's almost impossible to reach a state of homeostasis in this area.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's true for everyone.
And I'm not sure it gets better once the kids necessarily even move out, because I think there's a lot of stress worrying about your kids and what they're running around doing.
Yeah. Speaking of which, our oldest son is out of the house. He's in the military. We haven't seen him since July.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget I have him. But he's not one of these guys that needs anything, like, right?
Well, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what they say. If you're a good enough parent, eventually you work yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
He's doing very good. But one of our daughters, is she 5? God, number 3 youngest daughter. All of a sudden the other day she was acting kind of strange, and she just broke down crying, and she said she missed him.
Oh, that is tough.
Yeah. And we're going out to visit him, hopefully. Well, not hopefully. I got chewed out the other day because neighbor came over and we were talking about our possible trip out to see him, and she had started talking to him before I got there, telling about the whole plan. I came out, yeah, we're maybe gonna go out, and he's like, there's no maybe, you are going. But we're planning to go out and see him. But yeah, it's been really hard for her. She was just a couple years old when he went off to boot camp. She was having a hard time with that, and they got on FaceTime and did that, and then of course it's bedtime, and it's like, all right, time to wind it up here.
Yeah.
Not for that reason.
Yeah.
You need to get to bed.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
All that stuff is tough. Like even for us, when we try for intimacy twice a week, like some weeks you're just too busy. But the thing is that it makes your marriage and life better, So what are you gonna do? So you sacrifice sleep, or you know,
the other day, I was listening to one of our old friends' podcast, and I think the title was something about "Thank God for our husband's sex drive" or something like that.
okay, I'm skeptical, but
Yeah,
listen.
that induced the Twitter poll, and it's two ladies that host this podcast, and they're actually, of all the podcasts out there not named the Uncharted Catholic Man, they're pretty good. And but for a lot of, I think for a lot of marriages, not all, but a lot of marriages, the husband is sort of a high drive, has the high sexual drive, and the wife does not, especially when you have kids. I think
Hmm.
that's that's
Yep.
true for them as well. And I think a lot of because they talk to a lot of women are frustrated for a variety of reasons by the lack of desire, and you know
That they have, not
that
their
they
husband.
have,
Yep.
right. And so the sort of the thrust of the podcast was to, well, it's a good thing that our husbands want it more. Maybe it'll never happen, and it's good for our marriage. Like, it is good for our marriage to have it.
It's so
um
difficult to understand as a man because, you know, if they, it's such a paradox that it's good for your marriage, but you don't want to
mhm,
do it. And I understand that, if you're just worn out and all touched out from the kids being on top of you all day and,
mhm,
taking care of the kids,
yeah,
that you might be, how you could be burned out by that. And then what do you do? Like, how do you overcome that? And that's not easy.
right.
I don't know. What did they say?
Well, they talk about, not viewing your husband's drive as a problem, but as a gift, and they kind of promote um initiating stuff like that. I don't know if there's any great solution to it, but it's more of a mindset thing.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's more of a mindset thing as far as the conversations I've had with my wife,
Hmm.
and just that it's almost like a mindset where she has to know that it's in the realm of possibility or whatever.
We don't have to think about, like, it just automatic. It's on our mind, or
Hmm.
close to center of mind.
Yeah,
For our wives, a lot of times it's actually like they have to purposely, like, get
hmm.
it on their mind,
It's
I
true.
think. Um,
Yeah, and I mean there aren't. And I'm not gonna say there's no guys, but there aren't many guys that would deny any launch sequence initiation by their
yeah,
wife. I mean that's
right, right. Well, and I wanted to, maybe I'll share a Twitter poll. Now, this is probably not super, what do I want to say, um, telling, because I think most of our Twitter followers are guys, but let me show you a Twitter poll that I sort of, um, so this is a Twitter poll that we ran. The question is, which spouse has the heavier cross to carry in a Catholic marriage? The low desire spouse, the high desire spouse, and a cleric show results.
we can't have that many clerics
I don't
following
think
us.
so.
There's some liars out there.
I don't, and would the trads do that? I don't know, those
They'd
scrupulous
be
folks.
knowingly lying.
Yeah, so I'm
Hmm.
perplexed by that. Um, but the overwhelming majority, so like 60, of course, and you kind of got to take out the 19% for show results. So
Hmm.
well over 60%, 70 some percent of those who responded one way or another said the high desire spouse has the heavier cross.
Yep, I would agree with that because they're the ones that are seeking this connection, but they can't get it. But then, you can see the low desire spouse feeling bad about that as well.
And I wonder how much of it is just the whole moral dilemma, the moral anguish that goes with these guys anyway, when you're struggling to find intimacy and all the little pitfalls around. Like, I think it's I think being a high desire spouse in a relationship with a low desire spouse, I think sets you up for a lot more, um, I don't know, moral temptations, but encounters with some of the rules that we talk about
Well, and I
than
mean,
the low desire.
if you're not Catholic, there's all kinds of solutions to this where like the wives will tell the husbands just to go
Yeah,
get another side woman. And
yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty common thing, like more
yeah.
common than I thought it was.
Well, and
Just open marriages. I mean, people do all kinds of crazy stuff to
yeah,
get around that.
this is hardly a Catholic phenomenon for sure, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Um, but I think if you, so like, just, I think just most marriages, a lot of marriages struggle with these dynamics, and
And it fluctuates.
it fluctuates, and some marriages fail under the weight of it. Like, but then I think as Catholics, you have all that, plus you pile on, oh, by the way, here's all kinds of moral rules you got to follow, and if you don't, it could be a mortal sin and all that. It just, this is kind of the homeostasis that I was talking about. Like, it's just, you just feel like you're in a constant state of just trying to like survive to the next opportunity.
Yep.
I don't know, that's the way I feel sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just so much anxiety, and I think this poll sort of reflects that a little
Hmm.
bit. I don't know. I'd like to
Yep.
get more people to vote on it, but when you see this poll will be over. But and that's 36 votes. But that's something that's been on my mind a lot, is just the, and it's funny because when I was listening to the ladies talk about this, they're like, be thankful for your husband's or your spouse's higher drive. God made them that way, and it's part of God's design. And I'm like, okay, so what do we do with that? And where does concupiscence supposedly come in?
Hmm.
Because I'm like, thanks, but no thanks, in my opinion, having this drive. Like, and to the point where I would it adds anxiety to my life because I would like to not be this kind of a burden on my spouse. Like, it, even when the stars sort of align, it's like, okay, it's a window
Hmm.
of sort of the house is calm for my wife, that maybe she would rather either sleep or read a book or just do anything,
Hmm.
right?
Or get other chores done, like fold the laundry or whatever. But
Yeah. And so I have long struggled with a sense of guilt, like just like frustration that, you know, if you're trying to be a good Catholic and you believe that the only way to connect with your spouse or to get any kind of release is through the conjugal act or whatever, man, that's a lot of stress. It is just
oh, it's
it's so much
nearly
stress.
impossible to make work
Yeah.
without failing
Yeah. And I
from
would
time to time.
and I would say for those sort of couples who have, let's say, rounded off the edges and aren't like limiting themselves to that, I think it's still very stress inducing. Like, it's
Hmm.
even under the best of times, it is tough,
It
I
is.
think.
I agree.
So, anyway, and I don't know. Are there marriages where that just doesn't exist? Is it just,
I mean, if they're infertile, maybe, but
yeah.
then I don't know. That comes with all of its own issues. As far as children are one of the most awesome blessings of life,
Hmm.
so that you're missing out on something there as well. So nobody has it easy.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it should be easy, but because
It's just doable. Like,
yeah, like I said, like, occasionally we'll get someone who'll complain to us like, oh, this is all you guys talk about. I'm like, yeah, it's a chronic state of background anxiety. Like, it is.
yeah, it's difficult to thread the needle.
It's a constant state of tension, I think.
Hmm.
It both as an individual and as a married couple, that even once you kind of kind of figure things out, it never really goes away. At least hasn't so far.
You're right though, like especially with all the requirements of daily life, it is kind of like a fourth quarter drive, and you're down by one score. You just have to keep driving, just keep
Yeah,
driving, otherwise you're gonna fail.
yeah. So I don't know. I struggle. I I struggle with what to do with that because I do think it's part of our design, and it's just
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Like if men didn't have a sex drive, there would be less marriages for sure. I mean, it's not that marriage is only about sex, but one of the top things, if you like, we were talking about those polls, or actually, it was one of those. Oh, it was somebody on YouTube. I don't know if it's the Happy Wife Club or somebody else, but they said the number one most important thing to most men is sex in their relationship, but for women, it's like number 14,
Hmm.
below gardening.
Yeah.
And so the male sex drive is there to keep the relationship together in a sense. And I don't know how it was designed to not be somewhat reciprocal, but
Well, there's certainly a
or
built-in
more
natural.
consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know if it's a lack of compatibility is the word, but at least there's a definite constant tension there
Hmm.
that it's that never really goes away. Like I said, if we were just like other animals, and when procreation occurs, hormone levels go down, and you're just,
Yeah, like white-tailed deer.
yeah,
Their hormones are low most of the year.
yeah,
Then they kind of amp up in the fall.
yeah,
Then they fight each other,
yeah.
and then it's over.
I put up with that. Or I'll start growing antlers.
Yeah, yeah, but there's we were just designed differently.
Yeah, that's where I struggle. I struggle to understand why, as a church, we seem to put so much emphasis on these sort of sexual type matters from a moral level, when it seems like we're not, kind of getting back to the idea, well, always has to be open to procreation, all this and that. It just doesn't seem like that's the way we're designed to be. Like, that seems,
Hmm. Especially when you look at the other apes,
yeah,
I don't think that they feel overly guilty over
yeah,
whatever they have going on.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. It's a struggle, and I know a lot of people struggle, and we catch a lot of grief for talking about the struggles.
But the struggle is real. And the people that are complaining to us about this stuff, they're also struggling as well. Like
Yeah,
there's no way that somebody isn't impacted by this.
yeah. Well, and I think it's just because sort of this whole sexual ethics is such a, especially now, it's such a distinguishing part of being a Catholic from all the other faiths. I think,
Yeah.
not to
Well,
besmirk the other faiths, but I think it is sort of, we are the last.
the only faith with these sort of rules, right?
Yeah, I think so. With such high moral implications, like we still believe in hell and all that. Um, it's just, it's, I don't know. People people are, I think, very afraid to acknowledge any flaw in that. And I'm not saying there's a flaw, but there's a part of this that I find very, very difficult to reconcile all this together, both our nature, our experience, and kind of what the overall kind of unwavering attitude of the church is on these things.
It seems like a very strict interpretation of the rules isn't compatible with life.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
difficult. And I think they would say the response would be that to be a saint, you have to overcome all that stuff. And I mean, you can't deny that either. Like you can't.
yeah. I think
It's
that's a very easy way to just avoid tackling this issue.
Because there's certainly gray area here that I would hope there's gray area as far as not all the stuff is going to send somebody to hell.
Mhm.
There's different shades. Obviously, having an affair is different than looking at pornography or going solo, but according to the rules, the strict interpretation, they're the same. So you might as well just,
And there again, yeah, we got called a heretic last night by one of the SSPX boys simply
in
for
the YouTube
saying this.
comments.
Oh yeah, no, on Twitter.
Okay.
Just simply for saying this, like, I don't know. I mean, we're just supposed to keep our observations and complaints to ourselves. Are we that fragile? Are we that
And if you're that concerned with the rules, it's kind of like walking the plank off a pirate ship with somebody, holding a sword to your back, but you
yeah.
just have to just keep walking and hoping you can make it to the end of the plank. It doesn't feel like it's, you could say it's a choice, but it's a really difficult choice to make where you're really being forced down this chute,
I had this
hoping you can make it.
yeah, I had this image in my mind recently. It's in not to pick on the trads, but when I was a trad and still talking to trads, it seems like they view this life, and especially the saints. I think this is, remember death all the time and
Hmm.
going out and living in a hermitage with a little shrine made of some past monk's bones and all that kind of stuff.
We all do that.
Yeah, I mean, this constant remember death makes it feel like we're not here to thrive. We're just here to survive and not screw up. Like it
Hmm.
feels like under that, it feels like God just threw us into a pool, and our job is to not drown before he snatches us back out at the end of our life. Like that's what it feels like.
That's true. And is that the way we should really live? Or should we live inspiring lives where we can bring people to God? Like show people God's love, essentially. Or should we live in isolation, like you said, with the bones of a saint and hope for the best?
Yeah,
Is
I
that kind of like the parable of the talents where somebody, just buries their talent in the ground and just waits until the proper time to dig it back up? Or is it like the other people who go out and share the love of God, and build their talents and share them with others?
I think that's absolutely true. And
And everybody might have their own path in life too. Like some people, maybe they are just supposed to go pray for the world. But I guess I didn't get that calling. Like I just always felt like I was supposed to do something else.
yeah, I I don't know. I mean, I think that historically, at least, I think there's this skewed vision, um, perspective because of sort of who are the saints. It tends to be predominated by those that left everything, dwelled on death all the time, and that is sort of held up as the ideal. It is not the innovators and trailblazers and those that are working hard to make humanity better.
Hmm.
When you're
Not since the apostles, like you see John, obviously he was probably an innovator or somebody that was going around sharing God's love. But you're
Mhm.
right, a lot of the saints are writing or living isolated lives to some degree.
Yeah, or they just spend their lives defending tradition from the heretics. I think there is a need to preserve things, but I don't know, the going out into the frontiers and finding new ways to make life better, to make our understanding of God more clear, just seems to be disincentivized, I think, in some ways by kind of the traditional Catholic approach to life.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Do you have anything more you want to say with that? Because I have one thing that kind of ties into what you said.
No, go ahead.
So I came across an interesting news story yesterday. Apparently, there's four heads of Saint John the Baptist. Like they each place claims to have the authentic head of John the Baptist, but there's like a museum in Germany, three other churches, and one of them is Muslim. And but then there's actually a fifth location that was dug up that they determined that it was something, it was a church that had to do with John the Baptist, and it has bones in there that actually radiocarbon date to the proper time. So that the church, that the fifth church may actually have the real relic of St. John the
Really?
Baptist. Yeah. So you think about all these like normal guys that are being venerated, over time, that their skull is in some place, and obviously some regular guys' bones are being venerated.
Maybe it's like a Hydra. What's the one where you take one head off and a new one grows back or something like
Yeah,
that?
you're right. Maybe it is. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it is a Hydra, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's the
I think that's pretty much,
multiplication of the head and bones.
as you think about how some of that tradition was lost. Somebody's like, "Oh, I got St. John the Baptist head here," and it's just some guy.
Just some guy.
But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
And is that really morally a problem? Or could this like person who's venerating these bones, I'm sure John the Baptist could still like intercede for them on their behalf out of that, love and admiration, I guess, that is present.
sure seems like God recognizes the intentions on the person's heart, if
Hmm.
it's done in good faith. I mean, I don't know how it could
I would agree with that.
just like,
It's kind of like those Marian Apparition sites that aren't like Garabandal or places that aren't accepted. Miracles occur there probably through people's faith.
all right. So
We're taking a turn.
yeah. So Medjugorje came up in our Discord the other day.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, yeah.
Someone asked. So I don't want to get into the whole Marian apparition thing. But it came up in our Discord group, and what we should do about it. And of course, Fatima is approved and other
Hmm.
ones are not. And Medjugorje has this, cloud over it. And I made the comment that I might not be Catholic were it not for Medjugorje. Someone asked, and I never actually did come back, so this is a good chance.
Yeah, I'm all ears.
I mean, it's nothing profound other than, Medjugorje came out at a time where my family, so I was a kid.
So it was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, but I think our family found out about it in the 90s when
Okay.
I was middle school type thing. My parents were both raised Catholic, we were Catholic, but not much of Catholics, I guess, until I was probably 11, 12, 13, something like that.
One of those dreaded Novus Ordo Catholics.
Yep. And my parents became very involved, very interested in Medjugorje and some of these other things. But my mom actually went to Medjugorje.
No kidding.
Yep, with a relative or something like that, and had a profound experience there. But that really got us as a family praying the Rosary and having a devotion to Mary and going to church and going to adoration and stuff like that. And so, how do you? I mean, I don't know if it's legitimate or not, but I think I credit a good chance that the fact that I'm still a Catholic and our family became fairly Catholic to that. So
And God can use pretty much anything
yeah,
to bring others to Him.
I'm not telling everyone to go there by any means, but I don't know. I think what's more important is, does something lead people? God can, like you said, God can use anything, I think,
Hmm.
as an opportunity to help people find him or to encounter,
Hmm.
God. And I w- I I think that's more important than, does it meet all the technical requirements of authenticity?
Hmm.
Is every utterance supposedly canonically correct? I don't know. I just know that I've seen a lot of people's lives improved by that.
Hmm.
Um,
And the time is running out on that Marian apparition, I believe, because something is supposed to happen, and the one seer is supposed to be alive for it in the end. But they're getting older.
yeah, I didn't know if is it still going on? I
Yep.
didn't know
No,
if it's
I
still,
just read about it the other day. It's still going on, and I don't think she receives messages every day or anything, but I think oh, I shouldn't speak, but she's the main person is still alive, and she's supposed to be around for this great miracle to occur.
You know, one of the problems that I have is, my family became so involved with all that and was following all the different places, including Fatima, that I just overdosed on that.
Hmm.
Like, it was such a huge part of our life for a while, and it's kind of what made us become trads for a while that I don't really have much of an appetite for that
It's
anymore.
been called spiritual pornography because it's very enticing,
Yeah.
and I get that. It is
Yeah.
very enticing. Like
Yeah.
I read, like, I send you the stuff and I read a lot of that stuff just because it's interesting. It doesn't excite me, but it's interesting enough to read, to just to think about, to ponder.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded by some of it, but
Well,
it,
because not all of it can possibly be 100% accurate. For
yeah.
one thing, there's a filter as far as
Yeah.
people writing down what they heard or whatever.
Yeah. I think in part of it, I think I have family members who are still very much into that. And anytime you run into them, they want to talk about it. And
That
I
is
think
tough.
I associate that with just like, I just want to have a little kind of a normal life a little
Hmm.
bit. So anyway, uh, since that came up, thought I would explain what happened there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm a Marian apparition agnostic, I'd say more than anything right now.
Well, and I think they're worthy of pondering, but to center your whole life around them probably isn't what the purpose of them is in reality.
Hmm.
You're supposed to just come closer to God, through Mary, and that's fine, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the central part of your faith either.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it is kind of to have a balance. Like I think that is like that homeostasis. Like I think
Hmm.
it is, and I think we're all kind of like we get all kind of excited for the next new thing or whatever, and which maybe that's human nature, but I just try to have kind of an even keeled approach to all this stuff as opposed to like sitting in my basement staring at a box of bones until I die. I don't know. Even if I wasn't a husband and father, I don't think that would be my thing. I would be wanting to, I don't know, build stuff and create things, and I don't know. That's just my feeling.
But then too, if you experience something amazing, so like that Catholic cartoon artist, that Geekdom Come,
Hi,
he
I'm sure you're a subscriber.
yeah,
Good to see
he
you.
actually told a really interesting story on Twitter last night about how
How are
they
you
went.
not blocked?
I'm not blocked by him. I get along well with him. I just don't respond.
He blocks everyone. He blocks everyone.
I don't really tangle with him because I just don't feel enticed by him. Like you asked me why I argue with the people the other night, and I don't know. Sometimes I just feel an argument coming on, but with him, it's like I have no desire to argue with him. But he was telling a story about how him and his wife, she was pregnant, and they went to the doctor, and they did the ultrasound, and the baby, didn't make it.
Mhm.
Wasn't alive anymore. And so they went home that night and prayed, and he said that he put water from Lourdes that he had on her belly, and they went back in, and the baby was alive. Which I don't know what to do with that personally. It's something when it comes to miracles, I don't really totally believe anybody else except for my own experience. And I
Mhm.
mean, that's just how I am. And you can call me a jerk or whatever, but it's true. So I don't know what happened there. But if you experience something like that, you would really take the Marian apparition stuff to a whole different level. And so it's just a thought provoking story.
Mhm. That
Because
was his personal
that was his
experience?
personal experience. I'll try to dig up the tweet and send it to you.
You're gonna have to do a screenshot because I
I
won't be able
will.
to see it. He's blocked all my accounts now.
But yeah, it's so I'll move on to ready to switch to the bad story.
You wanna do that now or you wanna do another episode?
We can do another episode. That's fine.
All right, we're gonna tease you a little bit. We're gonna wrap this one up.
I am Batman.
That's it. You're gonna want to stay tuned to the next episode. Better subscribe,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Like and subscribe. Yeah, we have a fun story for you for next
Yep.
episode. So, okay. Well, I think we've rambled on. I've rambled on long enough here, so I'm gonna let you guys go. But thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you, Jonah. And
Thank
until
you.
next time, everyone,
Bye.
have a good one.